What's up, friends? Alex here with Sean McGuire. What up, Sean?
Hey, what's up, Alex? Happy
We are here
Saturday.
for. It is Saturday. I know what day it is this time. Because my schedule's about empty, a little empty. Um, we got a lot to talk about today. I had a big week. I know you've been busy. You had a big week. I want to provide a lot of value for I basically have come to this sort of realization. I'm here to help entrepreneurs create content that looks and sounds as good as the value they provide to the world. And I want to help other creators build wealth. Now, that's like sort of a secondary thing, but like I know you ask me a lot about real estate and investing, and I'm like, dude, we should cover that a little bit. Maybe, I don't know how much we'll do that today, but like I definitely want to start incorporating that. Like, how do creators build wealth? Because right now I'm starting the hunt for buying another house out in Austin, an investment property. And I looked at my financials this week, and as much as I work and income and gigs and side hustles and all that stuff, the thing that makes me the most amount of money is the real estate that I pay no attention to. And so those two things, I want to help entrepreneurs get their platform on the internet and build a book of business and build a digital resume. And then I want to help folks like you and me and other folks, the money that you're making, I'm like, how do you stack that aside and make that make money for you?
I love it.
So,
I think
so
that's
that's what we.
super relatable. A lot of people want to get into real estate and then just managing your money too. I was talking to one of the creators that I've been shooting with all week here for this event, and we were going back and forth on kind of something that we've talked about before. But how do you determine what percentage of income you should invest into new gear or not? And
Mhm.
staying up to date with the latest and greatest, because there is something always coming out, and like all of us had a hodgepodge of different gear, and you make do with what you have. But it's one of those things where it does get a little tempting to throw down on a new lens because it came out and it looks great.
A new lens is 2 grand. That's a lot of Facebook stock you can buy,
Yeah.
you know? And Facebook stock's gonna grow, Amazon stock's gonna grow, Apple stock's gonna grow. Um, One of the things that my first photography mentor taught me, he's like, you just get whatever piece of equipment like is right for you. Like I shot a 5D, now I shoot an R5. So like whatever that level is, if you're a Sony, you know, A7 S4, whatever that is, A7C, whatever it is, like whatever that level is, they're going to iterate on that level. Like that's a price point. And so it's like, okay, I need the $3,800 camera. Okay. When they come out with the next one, I'm going to sell this one. Okay. I'm going to sell this one for $2,500 and I'm going to buy the next one for 38. Oh, did I lose you? Oh,
Oh,
thought I lost you for a second.
yeah, for a second you
Um,
did.
I'm going to sell this one for 25. I'm going to buy that one for 38. I'm going to spend the difference. So every 3 years, I only have to spend the difference on getting the thing that I need
Mm-hmm.
to do my job. Now, I probably need two of them, but even still, it's a big upfront cost and then never again. So he's like, I don't keep cameras. I just sell off the model and buy the new model. And because cameras hold their value well, and it's the same thing with lenses. It's like, dude, I don't really need a new 70 to 200, maybe for 10 years. So I think gear acquisition syndrome is, it's a real problem, but also it's definitely a distraction from, like, the reality is most of what we do can be done on cell phones nowadays. And so get the fanciest, get the new iPhone. Like it's make more, don't buy more.
Yeah, make more, don't buy more. That could be a slogan. I like that. Well, the other
Yeah.
thing too, I've just been renting a lot more. Like on this last two shoots ago, I had to rent a few things, and it was a little bit of a drag just to have to go to the rental store. And I made an online reservation, but I still had to wait in line, and then I had to return it and had to inspect the gear. But I got like a $2,500 lens for $40 a day and a couple hours of driving. And I was like, sweet. And showed up. The client was like, oh, that's a nice lens. And I'm like, yeah. Like I didn't even tell him it's a rental. I was just like, yeah, it is. Like
Build it into the cost. Also, yeah, they look at you, they're like, oh, this guy's serious. You don't have to have the big expense. And renting gear is so cheap, bro. It's so cheap, $40 a day. It's like there's no way that you're ever gonna rent it that would equal the cost. So
yeah,
you could rent it 20 times in the year and still be under what it would cost you to buy it. So love that.
totally.
All right, dude, I had a big week. Actually, I'd love to run a few things with you.
Sure, let's hear it.
This week, I went to a company that hires and trains virtual assistants. So I'm going to hire a virtual assistant to run my schedule, which is a mess. My calendar, my email, all my travel plans, which I go off island probably once a month, sometimes twice a month. So I'm traveling a lot. Do all that stuff, and they're going to run a lot of the ops for this podcast for me. So I thought about that a lot. It's a lot. It's a big expense. It's a big investment. But I thought, this is the first time I've been avoiding it for a while. But like, it's a really big investment in myself and my like operations and my scalability. So, we'll see how it goes. But my hope is that it works out wonderfully. This person saves me a ton of time, makes me more money, lets me focus on the things I'm good at. And my hope is that I regret not hiring somebody sooner.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I did. The second investment I made in myself. Have you ever seen a documentary called Playing with Fire?
No.
It's a guy, he made a documentary about the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. Are you familiar?
Oh, I've heard of FIRE. Yeah.
Yeah, so he made a documentary about this couple that basically like, hey, we're living month to month, we're living paycheck to paycheck, we got a nice car, we got a big house, but we're stressed out, we're never going to retire, right? They can't spend any time with their kids. So they're like, how do we get out of this? And they find this FIRE community, and they're like, yeah, it's easy. It's the oldest trick in the book. Sacrifice, right? Sell the car, buy a smaller house, right? You guys both work remote anyways. Just live light, save money, and retire. And so they traveled together for a year doing this documentary. It was amazing. I watched that probably 5 years ago. They went to FinCon, so a lot of my friends are in it and stuff. I hired the guy that made that documentary to be my creative mentor.
Whoa.
And so it made me realize, I don't have that many mentors. I have a lot of real estate mentors around, but real estate mentors is not really what I'm focused on. What I'm focused on creativity. And so I guess the lesson I learned is if you need a mentor in life, you need somebody that's 10 years older than you, 5 to 10 years older than you, maybe 15, somewhere that's a little bit older than you that has some wisdom that's been through what you've been through that can sort of help you guide you along the way. And if you don't have that person in your life, you need to hire them.
Sure.
If you're lucky and you can find that person, you can get them to mentor you for free and just be, they invest in you because you're a good investment. Like, yes. But if you don't, you have to pay for that person because you need that person in your life. So I'm hoping that person is, I do my first call actually here in 30 minutes. But I'm hoping that that's going to be a big upgrade, let's say.
Nice. So does he have like a coaching program, or did you just coldly reach out to him and say, hey, I'll pay you to talk to me?
He's got a really soft coaching program. He's like, yeah, I mentor some other fellas that are like people in the creative space, but are also in the finance space.
Ooh.
So like entrepreneurs plus creative, or like finance plus creative, which is exactly what we do. And so it's not a big formal thing. It's just, I found him through a mutual friend who was like, you need to know this guy. This guy's incredible. He ended up working for the BBC and he produced a show called Living Below Zero, where they went to like the Antarctic and stuff like that. So he did like 5 seasons of that with the BBC. And so he's had a really successful career. And now he's like, dude, I'm like so retired because he knows how to invest.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm good. Now I just help the next people do the same thing.
Wow. Dude, good for you. That's awesome. Sounds like an interesting guy and totally within like your wheelhouse niche of what you're interested in.
Yeah, and this is kind of back to your point about buying gear. I'm like, I don't know yet because it's still new, but I wonder, my thinking is that investing in these things that are infrastructure, mentorship, operations, VAs, I think that's going to have a higher payoff than a fancy new lens. I mean, if you go look at all my podcasts with Brandon Turner, you don't really know which episodes are filmed with my 24-70 2.8 Sigma fancy lens or my 50mm 1.8 Nifty 50 $200 lens. I'm not saying that there's no difference, but like for what we're doing, like that $1,800 could have been spent, or $2,000 difference that could be spent in a lot of different ways.
Did I see online now you're messing with Sony's a little bit, or are you still Team Canon?
What did I do? No, I'm definitely Team Canon.
Okay.
What did I do? I think we talked about this before. If you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to create content on the internet like this, right? Canon is in a very toxic place. They're in a very, very bad place because they switched to this RF system. Well, they did two things. They switched to the M mount, which is a mirrorless mount, and they switched to the RF mount. And a lot of people went out and they bought the Canon M50, and then they basically have abandoned the M mount. So like everybody who bought a Canon M50 over the last 3 years has just sunk. And I feel bad. I was recommending it a little bit. Now I cannot recommend it. But the RF mount is the future. That's what this is shot on. That's what the new cinema cameras are shot on. That's what even they just released an R8, an R7, an R9, an R10. Like just released this whole gamut of entry level, $600 cameras up to $6,000 cameras, all RF mount. I'm like, all right, that's the future. Problem is, they do not make a lot of lenses for it yet. They don't make a 24 millimeter 1.4. Okay. They don't make a 35 millimeter 1.4. They don't make a fisheye. Um, they just don't make a lot of lenses for it yet. And Sigma has not made any RF lenses yet. Samyang hasn't made any. I think they have one manual focus. So if you are a content creator and you want to go buy an entry level camera, right, and like a Sigma art lens, which is the way to do it, you go buy like an $800 APS, like a crop sensor camera, but with a nice Sigma 1.4 art lens. You cannot do it for Canon right now unless you get the adapter and you buy an EF lens, which I'm just not going to recommend to people. So I'm like, look, it's easier to just go off and buy a Sony and a Sigma.
Yeah.
That's the only way I would recommend a Sony, and that's only because it doesn't. The art doesn't matter. It's just content.
Yeah,
And
the
only because it's
Sony's
cheap. If you got a big budget, there's still ways to go Canon.
Sony ZV-E10, great camera. I'm seeing more and more people with it.
I've been recommending it. I think I sold 3 or 4 this week through friends. I started an Amazon store. If you want to buy equipment, I have an Amazon store that has all my gear recommendations on it. Sony EZV-10, Sigma 35 millimeter, or excuse me, Sony Sigma 24 millimeter 1.4. Great combo.
Oh, nice. A 1.4.
Yeah. Now, in the next 6 months, Canon is going to release a 24 millimeter 1.2, is my guess, and maybe even a 24 millimeter 1.4, and I might start recommending those instead.
Nice. 1.2 would be pretty nice.
Yeah, but Canon right now is just in a tough place. They're just in a tough place, and they'll be fine. But they switched their entire ecosystem, and like Sony just didn't have to do that. Sony just came in, started with mirrorless longer ago. So now Canon's switching, and it's just gonna take some time.
Totally. So one of the things I've been filming this week is an event where a company flew out a bunch of people for a contest slash some of their more loyal users of their online game. And it's been interesting filming it, meeting all the people that came out here because, number one, people are just like so thrilled to come out to Vegas. And you kind of get desensitized living here, just like, oh yeah, we're in Vegas. But talking to some of these people, it's like just the mediums in which they consume and use their devices for content. Like I was talking to one of the husbands of the wife who he said is addicted to this particular game, and he's like, she has 2 phones, an iPad, and a MacBook, and probably plays at least 8 hours a day of this game. And I was like, are you kidding me? And he's like, dead serious.
She's an adult.
And she's an adult. And we didn't get into details because I wanted to be like, well, how does she work? Or like, what do you do? It was kind of higher level, but even at the dinner last night that I was filming, I saw 3 people at the table, all heads down, and I was like, ladies, let me get a little video clip and I'll do a, little zoom in and y'all can wave. And one of them's like, oh, I'm playing the game right now. And I was like, even better. Let's see, hold up your screen and we can do some fun little things like that. But it was just like kind of interesting because, it's like we talk about creating content, but even just in the consumption aspect of it, even with like games too, it's like people are just so plugged into their devices. And These ladies were playing the game instead of socializing. And sure, they were like talking, like, oh, I won this, or like I got this many points, but it was just kind of interesting to see it in real life where you're like, okay, these people are like legit playing the game that brought them out here, and it's dinner time.
Yeah, I love that. They go to Vegas to to game, but they don't game at the Vegas games. They do it on their phone now. I think there's
Yeah.
a world where there's a lot of dystopian fiction, Ready Player One, where it's like all you do 24/7 is game virtually or game, which is basically on your phone, right? Some version of that. Um, which brings us back to something I always talk about. Like, if you want to be successful in the world going forward, you are going to have to decide whether you want to be a creator or a consumer. And there are going to be way more consumers. So, like, you'll have an audience, you'll have a customer base, but it's just easier to be a consumer. It's harder to be a creator, but the opportunity is so big because there's folks that are just addicted to their phones. I mean, it's going to get more competitive. There's more people that are going to play a game than maybe watch this. Well, not
Hmm.
maybe, but for sure, right? Because games are more interactive. But yeah, I love that. Was was it a gambling game? Like, can
Yeah,
they make
yeah.
money?
It's a gambling game. I don't believe they can make money. I think it's more of just, the street cred and leaderboard with points and perks and upgrades.
So the gamification, but without the actual rewards. That's funny.
Yeah, no, it was gnarly. Like just talking to some of these people with what they invested into the game, and then
Invested.
just yeah, yeah invested. But the other thing that was just crazy too, just like how like diehard, just talk about like thousand true fans rule, but like apply that to a game. Like these people were diehard. They did a trivia night that we were filming, and they were asking about the characters and like when they changed the name from the game's name from this to that, and people were like so prideful and happy that they like knew the answers or would shout them out, and it was like their own little club of like everyone like it'd be like if we got all the Sony enthusiasts in a room and we were all just talking Sony, and doing like Sony trivia. It was like that but for this game, and it was just super super interesting, super awesome gig, super fun people. Cuz I'm not really a gamer though, so I can resonate with like having passion and enthusiasm for like what you're into, but I mean, these people were diehard. And then I was talking to one of the like, so they had influencers that they flew out and or that were here. So that was cool. Just talking to some of the other creators. I was talking to one guy who has a YouTube channel. He uploads 2 to 3 videos a day. He has a team of 7. Started doing it 10 years ago. Loves gambling, not just with games, but like actually gambling. So he'll go to the casinos, set up his phone on a tripod, pull the slots, or I guess they don't even pull them anymore, but push the buttons, and he was saying he just started doing it 10 years ago because he likes to gamble. And now he's got like pretty substantial following. He said on Facebook he gets bigger reach than on YouTube. And organically, when he posts on Facebook, he said he has a bigger reach than Kim K. And he had like a little
Wild.
poker chip for his business card that he handed me, and you scan the QR code. And I've been looking him up, and I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. And he's just like, man, I just kind of stumbled into this. Like, I just thought it would be cool to make videos and liked doing it. Started 10 years ago. Now I got a team of 7, and just like blown away. And he doesn't look or act like the typical like YouTuber. Like, if anything, you'd be like, that's just Joe Blow over there, like a normal looking dude who likes to gamble. And then start talking to him, and you're like, holy smokes, this guy's like legit.
Dude, I love the internet. I love
It's
the internet so
crazy.
much. I love content so much. Like the fact that people will watch somebody else gamble at a casino. He just sets his phone up. It's like the gym. I think like I go to the gym all the time. I'm a meathead, right? And like I'll post like, hey, I'm at the gym, whatever. But some people, they bring their tripod and they're like, here, watch me do squats. And I'm like, who cares? And then I'm like, I look at the internet, I'm like, lots of people apparently care to watch you do squats or watch you gamble or watch you play video games. And I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it. Like, hey, you got to do what you're into. I mean, I hope people watch this and they're just like watching two guys talk about the creator industry. Um, But it's amazing that what can take off. So like
Hmm.
if you're on the fence, like people that are on the fence about doing content, I'm like, everybody does something cool. Miss Kate's trying to become a quilt influencer. And she's like, are quilters on the internet? I'm like, yes, everybody's on the internet. Yes. And so, like, if you're making quilts every day, whatever you're doing every day and you love it, it's like, just make it cool on the internet too. And, um, like you have a high chance of making a following, especially if you do it for 5, 10 years. Because what I learned too about like content is almost everybody quits or is highly inconsistent. So if you can just do it freaking 3, 5, 10 years, um, you just beat out all the people that they just quit.
Sure.
They just quit.
Well,
Also, it's brand new. YouTube's gonna grow. Instagram, like Facebook's gonna grow. Instagram's gonna grow. It's growing. It's not shrinking.
yeah, no, it's definitely growing. I've noticed the common denominator where they all do really enjoy it. Like I think the ones that don't quit are the ones that enjoy what they're doing when they're doing it. Um, I did talk to another YouTuber who was there last night, and he was kind of vlogging himself eat. And then when he was done, we started chatting, and he was saying that he just started a second channel because so he has like a travel channel. So he goes to different cities, and one of them's Vegas. And he was saying like, yeah, I'm starting a gambling channel now too because it's just lower. It's less production value. Like I can just bring my
Right?
tripod on the camera and just hit the buttons, and like there's literally no editing. And
Does
like
he
he was,
stream it? Is it live or is it just he just uploads it later?
I think he streams it and then he'll upload it
Dude,
later, so he'll repurpose it. And he
zero
says,
production.
yeah,
Zero
zero
production.
production, zero thought. And he's like, sure, like you might go through like $1,000 in a week of like just gambling and stuff, but then you get like tons of videos, and once it starts
And
hitting,
the
it
videos make all the
hits.
money.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's like the thing that is have you seen the guys that do the lawn? They do like, hey, they go in town and they just find the most tragic, overgrown, just like sad lawn of all time. And he just goes up and he's like, hey, on a cell phone, hey, can I just mow your lawn for free? Can I just make this thing beautiful for free? And they're like, sure. And you look at this, I'm like, this is a day's worth of work, right? Like this is a $1,000 gig. And so he's like, okay, I'll do this $1,000 gig. I'll spend 6, 7 hours. He's there all day. He's got all his equipment out there, but he makes it lovely. And then I look at him like 1 million views. I'm like, bro, whatever you sold, right? You're like, hey, just buy my clippers, sell my thing, affiliate link, sponsorships, the ad revenue, just the AdSense revenue. I'm like, it works. The whole economy is changing, bro. Like people are going to do a lot more stuff for free that other people are willing to watch.
Yeah. No, I actually like his videos, and then like, it's like kind of like time lapses, and he has like the voiceover, like here we are, this corner lot, like totally
He's got
has too
production
much
value.
crabgrass. Yeah, no, it's great. Like he's onto something with that. I think people like to see the transformation. So visually, it's really nice where you see like just a shitty lawn that all of a sudden looks okay, and like you couldn't even see the sidewalk before, and then now you get to see it.
That's story. That's what it
Yeah,
is. It's a story.
yeah.
It's a story. Yeah, dude.
So another thing I was reading about that kind of wanted to get your take on or just mention, just because I've been following this creator from the start, but Eric, do you follow him on YouTube?
I don't, but I know he's like he's don't help me. Mr. Beast like replica and he's huge, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's like in that genre of like sensationalism and just like challenges and doing crazy stunts. He really blew up on YouTube in 2020. He had and documented the goal of gaining 1 million subscribers in a year. And he did things like snuck into the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight. He bought Logan Paul's like he did a really good job of kind of hijacking the story off of like other people's names, specifically like Logan and Jake Paul. Like he put a boat in Logan Paul's pool and he didn't know about it, and like got a crane and like hoisted it and lowered it in. So he's like really creative and funny and just does these things where
Big.
he like kind of kept on coming back into their world. Yeah, and since then I think he's got about like 14 million followers on YouTube, and he has like a prank walk on water video that has like 27 million views on YouTube. But he just signed with the agency, talent agency UTA, for representation in all areas. So he's going to be, I think we'll see a lot more of him now with, probably brand sponsors and, doing things
Dude,
beyond just YouTube.
dude, I love it. The opportunity is so big.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that audacious, unfortunately. I'm too old to be like, pranking and stuff like that. And I'm not sneaking into stuff. But dude, highly, like, super excited for him. Like, that's such a neat, just life. Like, it's just, if you did that 20 years ago, it's just, you just get arrested, you know?
Yeah.
You just get arrested. Now you're like, oh, now it makes you famous. It's crazy. I mean, um, yeah, the internet just changed everything. I love it. What about you? What kind of content are you making these days?
Well, right now we're, the podcast. I really enjoy doing these. I'm excited for us to hit top 10 because I keep on meeting other cool creators that I'd love to have on and have us just like talk it up with them.
Yeah.
Um, Working on some reels, similar to you. I want to invest in myself and find like, an editor that can help with some of what I've been doing. Been trialing and giving people test tasks, but still haven't found one that I really like. But I got some videos that I've been writing for just kind of educational purposes of either things that I see or things that are happening throughout the week, and give little tips and tricks for, similarly, realtors, wholesalers, or business owners that want to get into content. Um,
Yeah, we gotta get
so
the
yeah,
Sean. We could get the Sean McGuire personal brand up.
yeah. No, I need to I need
I
to
love
step it
your.
up
I
a
saw
little
a
bit.
video. I saw a video you did today about content on content, which I love that name, by the way.
Oh, thanks,
I was
man.
too. I was too. I was too. I was ashamed to steal it from you. I was gonna call this content on content. I was like, no, I gotta change it. You deserve that name. That's a great name.
Hey, I'm happy to share the name, man. I thought of the name, I liked it, and then it has some really good pros with it, but then it also has a few cons that I've noticed after creating the
Every
name.
every name has pros and cons. You just gotta fucking Amazon's. Just, I say all the time, like Google's a stupid name for a company.
Sure, sure.
Um, what are some of the cons?
So the way I had the logo, it was content on content, and so it was really easy to see visually. But then when you spell it out and like as you type it, content on content, I've noticed it has like the tendency to maybe get misspelled. Um, and if you're not in the content video space, people are always like, if like, let's say I'm calling, like when I was getting business insurance, for instance, she was like content, and I'm like content, and like
Oh
and
yeah,
so people think like if you're in the space and I'm like, oh yeah, I create content, they're like, oh, I get it. But if you're like totally outside of video world, and you're like doing email stuff, sometimes people misspell it or they don't get it. And I don't have the .com. The domain for the .com was a little out of my budget, so I have the .co. So if I was gonna do
yeah.
that again, I'd probably get like a .com too, just because people are so used to the .coms.
That's a good
Um,
point. I'm struggling with that right now. Contentmatters.com is taken. So,
Damn.
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I might just URL it something else, but call the company the same. But yeah, I think about those things. I used to have my first blog was called Broke as a Choice, and
Sure.
so it was a little aggressive, which I like. And
Yeah.
but it was brokeasachoice.com, or like Alex at brokeasachoice.com. And so it got to a point where I was like, dude, I can't email people with that who are not in the finance field, because then they're just like, well, you're an asshole. Like, I don't even know you. I just got this email from somebody who's like broke as a choice. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So I had some of that. So I feel you on that one. It's just, but I wouldn't sweat too much about it. It's more like, I don't know. The fix will come. The universe will provide you the fix when you need it, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, no, yeah, the broke is a choice. I feel like that could ruffle a little feathers with.
I liked ruffling feathers, but also like it got to a point where I was like, what happened was, unfortunately, it was good for me, right? It was a good, like, me. I was like, hey, dude, Alex, you're broke. I'm broke by my choices.
Mm.
But then when I got out of that, right, and I started hanging out with people that are wealthier, they're like, it just changed. Like they're like, I was hanging out with folks that had money, and they're like, you just sound immature. That's how it looked at. I think they felt about it.
Oh wow.
Plus, nobody wants to give you money if you're like if you're like, oh, broke is a choice. They're like, what is that? And I'm like, well, I used to be broke, and then they're like, well, I'm not going to give you money if you were broke 6 years ago. Like, even though, you know, so I sort of outgrew it.
So you don't really use that for the blog name anymore, or you just stopped?
I just don't really do that blog anymore. Yeah, I don't
Okay,
use that email address at all anymore. So I'm
sure.
just saying, like, you'll be fine. You'll figure it out.
Yeah,
You'll adapt and change. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
sure. Well, just so you're aware, everyone that I was shooting with this weekend had Sonys. People
So
shooting on
nobody
the
there was any good.
FX3s. I
So a bunch
love
of
how you can
amateurs.
always just spin it. Like I'm always going into this where I'm like, oh, I got him, checkmate, and then you're like, nope, I can go here.
Bunch of amateurs you hung out with this weekend. That's great.
Yeah.
Actually, dude, I saw someone on your Instagram that you're hanging out with that I would love. I started following him. Who were you hanging out with? Somebody that was like a somebody.
Tyler
Tyler.
Bishop.
That guy. That guy got some skills.
He's got some heaters. Yeah, he was one of the guys. I was almost gonna see if he wanted to jump on today, but he was still. We went to the gym together this morning, and then he was still lifting. But
That guy got some skills. Let's get him on. Let's we're on episode 8. Let's get to 10.
yeah,
I'm gonna hire my VA, and then this thing we'll start pushing it out.
yeah,
All right. Let's
yeah.
get to
No,
know Canon's still on top. And then my buddy here on the island, who's like he just got signed on with Netflix to do a documentary about the Lahaina fires. Um,
oh,
he shoots red,
wow,
and he's like, Sony's are for amateurs.
sure, wow.
Sure.
Yeah, no, the fires thing. I just saw a little interview the other day on that where they were kind of talking about like it being a planned or a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy.
Yeah,
It's not a conspiracy.
but yeah,
Sorry to disappoint.
yeah, it would be interesting. Well, they're just saying like, oh, there's like plans for investors to build these buildings before the fires even happened, and somebody
The problem with that
orchestrated it.
argument, I've heard that argument. They wanted to land. The thing about
Yeah,
Maui is that if you got here, like, dude, there's so much land here. Like,
sure.
you could build for 50 years nonstop, and you wouldn't make a dent. There's so much land here. There's
Wow.
so much buildable land here. It's crazy. When you drive from here to Kahului, which is 30 minutes, or Lahaina, all you do is pass like endless buildable land.
Wow.
They don't want the voting. The way that the public works is they basically vote for politicians that they all say, like, the locals are like, um, it basically goes, we don't want people moving here. So make regulations so you just can't build. Even now, like with all the houses gone, they have zero plan for how they're going to rebuild. They don't
Hmm.
know how to get housing done here because it's so the politics are so entrenched with just like this don't build. Because what they don't want people moving here. So instead, what actually happens, because we live in America and we live in a capitalist society, what actually happens is because there's a small amount of houses, they just drive the prices up of the houses that exist. And it prices out the people who are like voting on don't let them build. Then they're the ones that can't live here. So it's not a conspiracy. It's never a conspiracy. It's always incompetency. Have you ever heard of
Competency.
Hanlon's razor? Never attribute to malice what can be more easily attributed to stupidity.
Wow.
People are not evil, they're stupid.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, dude, Sean, thank
Always
you, my
great to
friend.
see you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Let's do this in a few days. Let's not go too long next time.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Good to know Sony's still on top. And
I'm coming to Vegas. Maybe we can do an in-person episode. I'm coming to Vegas twice
oh
before the end of
yeah.
the year.
Yeah, it's like 20 through the 25th, I think.
I'm coming from the 20th and the 25th, and then I'm coming again in December.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's put
Yeah,
it in the books.
let's do it.
Maybe we'll get to episode 10 by then. That could be our first in person with a guest.
Love that. All right, my dude, I gotta
Cool.
go.
All right, cool. I'll keep this window open because I'm on Wi-Fi
Yeah,
at the hotel and it's slower than dial
yeah.
up at my grade school. So,
I'm glad you remembered.
yes. Cool, man.
All right,
Appreciate you.
later.
All right, peace.